Okay, I think we're ready to present our next presenter. His name is Olowoniwa Gabriel Ayokunle, and he is a cybersecurity analyst, software developer with years of experience. A graduate of electrical and electronicals engineering from University of Ilorin in Nigeria. He has undergone different levels of cybersecurity training and incidents management and has built countless software products. Olowoniwa has strong written and verbal communications. He says that he learns things, shares, and creates with a lot of fun. He possesses developed cybersecurity analytical skills with a strong attitude for conceptualizing problems and developing well-reasoned and logical perspectives. What is more, he's unconventional and imaginative on his approach to life and seek out new challenges and experiences whenever possible. He's self-driven and tend to approach his work in a structured and disciplined way. And you know when people are running from problems, so Olowoniwa is different. He's excited about solving them with a knack of demystifying difficult concepts. So Olowoniwa, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Broadcast. I just hope I got the name. Anyways, good morning. Well, it's morning over here. Good morning, everybody. Once again, I am Olowoniwa Gabriel Ayokunle. I am a software developer and a cybersecurity analyst. So, some things about me has already been said by a broadcast here, and so I will just delve into it straight up. If you want to follow me on Twitter, this is my Twitter handle at Gabyslaw, Gabyslaw. And if you want to hook up with me on LinkedIn, this is my LinkedIn ID as well. So the title for of this talk is Cybersecurity: the Good, the Bad, and the Hard. Well, I think some questions should run through your mind when you see this topic there. Okay, fine. What's the correlation between the good, the bad, and the art when it comes to cybersecurity? Well, don't worry, we'll still delve into that. All right. But before that, I would want to ask my viewers a question, and I would appreciate if you can give a response to those questions in the chat box there. So because we all have different opinions of things. So the question is this: is there anything that is 100% secure? That's the question. Is there anything that is 100% secure? If you feel, excuse me, please. If you feel you know something that is 100% secure, be it a software, be it a web app, anything out there, just put it in the chat box. Let's see how people relate with it. And mind you, when you're giving your reasons, when you're giving that particular answer, I would appreciate if you can give reasons why that thing is 100% secure, even if it is not 100% secure. If you can have something that is like 99.9% secure, I would love you to drop it on the chat. And if I feel that is not secure, I will definitely and I will happily counter whatever you say. So let's make this so interesting. All right, so let's ride on. So before we continue, I would love to say something. Softwares are developed by developers. Developers are humans. Humans make mistakes. So there's no island of knowledge. That's a popular saying that people do say. So as much as we try as much as possible to develop software that people make use of and everything, at the same time, we as developers, we are also humans. And because humans are prone to make mistakes, so we definitely make mistakes. All right. All right, so let's talk about the good. Who is the good? Well, the good, those I call them the pen testers. The good are pen testers. So some people call them white hat hackers. Some people call them penetration testers. But those are the people that I call the good. All right, the good. I said pen testers. Now, what differentiates a pen tester that is the good and the bad? When we get to the bad, you know who the bad is and you know who the hack is. So what differentiates the good and the bad. But before I delve into this much, let me quickly show you who the bad is. The bad, those are the hackers. You will see, you can see with the picture I used. You can see that guy on his laptop. So now, but there's a major difference between the good and the bad. The bad, they are the hackers. The good, they are the pen testers. All right. For the pen testers, their time is they mostly have limited time. That is for the pen testers. Those are the good ones and everything. They have limited time. For example, if you want to penetrate, if you want to do a pen testing for a particular software now, you have a scope by which you're working with. That is why, secondly, here I put here they have well-defined scope. You have a scope by which you're working with. You can't go beyond your scope because it's an agreement between your company or it's an agreement between you and the company that you are doing the penetration testing for. So you have a well-defined scope that you're working with, and you have a time. You give your client a particular time. Okay, fine. I want to do a pen testing. I want to pen test your software. Just give me a week, give me 1 month or so, etc. Depending on how well you work, and depending on how tedious the pen testing exercise you want to do, depending on how tedious it is, and depending on the kind of bug you intend finding out. Now, time as a pen tester, you have limited time. Now, most times a pen tester has well-defined scope. Now, a pen tester has goals. They have a clearly defined goals. What they intend achieving at the end of the pen testing, they already declared it. They've already declared it, and that is why most pen testers, once they are done with whatever they are doing for you, they give you a detailed report of what they found out on your particular platform, on your website, on your mobile app, etc. They give you feedback. They give you reports by which you can take back to your developers, so your developers can work on it and they can actually try as much as possible to curb any of the vulnerabilities that the pen tester has found out. And privacy, they perform under legal terms. Pen testers don't just go around, oh, I'm saying this particular platform, let me as much as possible to penetrate it, and they start working. It doesn't work that way. So they believe so much, and they believe so much in privacy. So they perform under legal terms. So now those are who I call the good. So now let's look at the bad. The bad, they are the hackers. Mind you, an hacker doesn't have any time limit at all. Because an hacker wants to penetrate you, an hacker can decide to spend 6 months doing some information gathering about you so as just to penetrate you. An hacker can take his or her own time so as to monitor you and look at your and so as look for a vulnerability in which he can exploit. So an hacker doesn't have time limit at all. Those are the bad ones. Now for scope, they operate with zero limitation. There's nothing like okay, fine, don't go beyond this point. This is a no-go area. Do not test this point, do not test this part and everything. No, an hacker doesn't behave that way. They operate with zero limitation. And the goals, most times their objectives are unknown. You see some hackers, they do it for fun. They do it just because of the fact that now I mentioned for fun. I'll still get to that part, the fun part. Now, most times some hackers just do it because of the fact that yes, they can do it. They want to prove to the world that yes, I am capable of doing this. I'm capable of hacking you. I'm capable of penetrating your platform. And some even try as much as possible to do it so as just to collect ransom from you. Because they know that yes, once they get access to your platform and everything, or they have access to your files and everything, they can decide to request for funds from you, and you have no choice. You have to pay the money because he will hold you to ransom. Now, the fourth thing, which is privacy. Most things that those hackers do, it is strictly illegal, because once you are trying to penetrate, once you are trying to bypass a particular network, a particular platform or something, without the prior notice of that person and without the consent of the person for you to do such, then you're doing something that is illegal. That is why some of my tutorials that I even give online, some of the penetration testing, I do penetration testing tutorial. I always state it categorically that this is strictly for educational purposes and everything. And I know some people might be thinking that, fine, if it's for educational purposes, then why are you revealing such a secret or so? Now, if it is not revealed, if you don't learn about it, there's no way as a developer, there's no way you can curb that particular menace. So I would like to quickly give out a note. A note. The note is that this session is strictly for beginners. Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have been coding for numerous number of years, that doesn't mean you can learn one or two from here. But I'll try as much as possible to be as basic as possible, so that even if non-developers or non-cybersecurity experts can actually pick one or two from this session. All right, let's write on this. So he took it, he checked some of the things there. He said, oh, I think this should work. So he took it to production straight. He ran the code on live, and that was how he got a prompt that I think it was, did he even get a prompt, or I think the database just dropped in a production environment. So luckily for him, they do backup every now and then. That was how they were able to recover that. But it nearly cost him his job. He nearly lost his job based on that. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that he copied a code on a forum. He didn't really cross-check the code, if the code is correct or if the code is fine. He just went ahead with it. So I'll dwell more in that when I get to the next slide. Next thing for the developers being under the ACT category is testing and test data. All right, most developers try as much as possible to test their code themselves. Let's face the reality. As a developer, you can't fully 100% test your code yourself. No, you can't. I'm a software developer too. And I know that sometimes whenever I write some codes or whenever I build some products, whenever I'm testing it, I'm always biased when it gets to testing my codes and everything. I'm always biased. Sometimes I know that a particular part is not working very well. But because of the fact that you really want to beat time, or you are working against time and everything, man, I can't test. I can't give an external person to test and everything. So you just move on with your life. You start punching codes and everything. You start doing basic testing and you move on. So that is a very bad approach. I will still dwell more on that. And test data. Try as much as possible as a developer to delete test data once you are not using it, once you are going to live. For example, you are trying to seed a particular, okay, well, I'm a .NET developer. So let's say in the process of developing my app now, I don't want to connect to the database. So I was seeing some data in my code, probably an array of a particular thing. So I'm seeing some data in my code. So that once I get to the endpoint of the API I'm building, I can see real data to see how this particular app actually works. Now, if I'm not careful, or if I'm trying as much as possible to work against time, and at the end of the day, something just happened, so then I forget to remove all those test data there. Probably maybe if it's just or let me say if it's a dummy data that I used in creating a dummy user so as to test to see how my app works, and I did not delete the data, that can actually be a vulnerability and that can be exploited. I will dwell more on that in the next slide. All right, encryption, that is for developers. Encryption. A good number of developers don't encrypt sensitive data. When you are sending sensitive data to a server, or you're sending to an API. So before I continue, I was dropping something on the charts, and I think I got an engagement from Justina Sabaitis. I dropped a link, protectedtexts.com. All right, so by the time I am done with this session, I would like to really to quickly talk about that website, because that website looks so basic. And I think Justina asked a question. I said, so that's true. Your password isn't sent to our server. We can't decrypt. Yeah, that is so true. They don't send your password to their server at all. And I actually confirmed that. And how did I know that? If you try to log in again, once you put your password there and you click on login, normally, if it's assuming the password was sent to the server, it was meant to connect. Even if you hijack the session, you are meant to see something like it's connecting to the server, trying to check the server. Oh, is this person really authorized to view this page? But funny enough, if you get to the login page, switch off your internet, put your password and click on login. It will give you access to the page, meaning the encryption and everything is done on the client side. And you must be having some questions that wow, if it's done on the client side, definitely it's going to be JavaScript. Can't the JavaScript code be written, be checked, so you can try to bypass? Yes, you can see all the JavaScript code that was written. In fact, it was well commented. Well, we will still get to that, though. I think that's one of the fun parts for this session. Okay, and in case I forget, I always have a Zoom session sometimes with some people that I take on cybersecurity. So we do some penetration testing so exercises there where we pick different tasks ranging from any type of hacks that you can think of. So we pick different tasks and everything. So I share my screen. I try as much as possible to do something. So the ones that involve writing codes, we write codes and everything. So we try to penetrate some things. The ones that we can do, we achieve it. We are all happy, yay! And the ones that are super hard, like this protected test that I dropped for you, it is super hard, but we'll still get to that. So moving on, I think I've talked about testing and test data, but for the sake of the breaking transmission, I will just quickly run through it again. I said we've talked about the good, we've talked about the bad, and and now we are talking about the hard. I said the good are the pen testers, and the bad, they are the hackers. They have no time limit at all. They don't, most time their objectives are unknown, etc. And the hard, I said they are divided into two, the developers and the end users. Now, for the developers, most developers do copy pasting of code from open source platforms like Stack Overflow, etc., without without cross-checking the code to see if this code is actually good for them to use, and to even see maybe there are some hidden bugs in it. All right, for testing and test data, most developers, because of the fact that they are working against time and everything, they want to beat time, they tend to test their products, they tend to test their softwares themselves. That is a very bad idea. Even I myself, sometimes I'm guilty of that. I try as much as possible to test my software myself, but it's a bad idea. Reason being that no matter how good you are, you at one point in time you'll be very biased with your testing. And there are some people that when they are done testing, maybe you are seeding a data and you are seeding a data per se, like you are not putting it to the database, but you don't want to create a situation whereby those data can be available when you probably call your API endpoint, since you are still in the development stage. Some developers forget to remove it, or you use a test user. Some developers forget to delete that. We'll still talk about that more. Now, the third one, encryption. So mind you, I'll be super fast now. So data encryption should be from the back end. So now for the end users, we have phishing, we have ransomware, we have social engineering. Phishing is the most common, like it is super common amongst people, amongst users and everything. So ransomware too, it corrupts your files, and social engineering, trying as much as possible to manipulate users to divulge information. So I think we have less than 10 minutes, so I will need to quickly rush this. So I will drop the slide for you in case you need more explanation. I explained some of it in the slide, so I won't be able to explain much of this. So how am I as fault as a developer? You can see that guy is furious. What's happening? So then, how am I as fault as a developer? There's the continuation, encryption. So then, how am I at fault rather? Oh, great. I think I have 18 minutes. Thank you very much, Lucas. I really appreciate it. All right, so let me do more on this. How am I as fault as a user? So most times when hack happens, you will see some users they start cursing the developer. Wow, it's the developer's fault and everything. But mind you, it was researched by CyberSafe that human error caused 90% of cyber data breaches in year 2019. That is according to analysis of data from the UK ICO's office, that is Information Commissioner's Office. So if human error caused 90% of cyber data breaches, and most of those, we are all humans, and most of us are end users as well, so most end users. So it's safe to say that some of the act that happens is not entirely the developer's fault. I've talked about the developers part of it, but also the users, they have their own fault too. Now, CyberSafe cited phishing as the primary cause of breaches in 2019. That's accounted for 45% of all reports to the Information Commissioner's Office. Then another one is unauthorized access, which was the next common case of cyber breach in 2019, while we have reports of malware and ransomware, etc., etc. So now, what should you do as a developer? I think we are getting to the part where as a developer, I did something personally for myself. I started off as a software developer. Then I started reading things in cybersecurity. So that's why I'm combining the two together: software development and cybersecurity. And I must tell you, it has greatly improved the way I code, the way I write code, etc. I talked about a Zoom session the other time. Maybe if any of you is interested in that Zoom session that we have once in a while, so I will share my screen. So I will show you how I section my codes and everything. So this session is not mainly for that. So that's why I can't really do much demo for this session. And again, there's a time limit to this session due to the technical issue that happened. Now, so being a cybersecurity analyst and at the same time a software developer, it has actually helped me a lot because it has helped me in thinking like a hacker. So, but I can do it. I've done it. And I feel anybody can do it as well. Developers, you all can do it. And for you to be able to achieve that, you just need four things. Number one, you have to have incomparable tenacity. I will dwell much into this internet. Like you have to have incomparable tenacity. You have to learn by experience. You have to be willing to break boundaries, and you have to have fun. One thing that has kept me going in this is that sometimes when I'm writing when I'm writing code, when I'm building the software, sometimes I get tired because sometimes maybe I've been sitting for some hours on my laptop punching codes, or sometimes I might even be stuck. I don't even know the next thing to do again. Sometimes it's not fun anymore. Then I do what I leave that laptop. I open my other system. I open my Kali Linux. Fine. Let me just start doing stuff and everything. So sometimes I do this thing for fun. I write my code, I build my software, and at the same time, I open my Kali Linux. I try as much as possible to penetrate what I just built. Now, at that particular point in time, I don't think like a normal developer again. In fact, I don't think like a pen tester. I think like a hacker. So that is what all developers can do. So, and it's fun for me. So you must have incomparable tenacity. You must learn by experience. You must be willing to break boundaries, and you try as much as possible to have fun. So let's pick one tenacity. Hackers are tenacious. They are self-taught. If you check most hackers out there, nobody really sat them down that, okay, fine, sit there. Let me teach you how this is done. Let me explain this to you. These are this, that, and everything. Most of them are self-taught. Fine. At some point in their career or at some point in their life, they must have undergone different training with people. Maybe they have mentors and everything. But nevertheless, a good number of them are self-taught. And they do things with determination. Now, to break a barrier, they try as much as possible to make attempts without hesitation. If someone wants to penetrate you, if someone wants to hack you, that person is doing it without hesitation. So, and the funny thing and the amazing thing about being a hacker is the fact that you don't need any formal education or to learn a particular technique to do that. Most of them are self-learners, so they don't rely on others' advice and everything. And that is one of the things that have actually kept them going. That's one of the things that make them achieve whatever they set their mind to do. Now, programmers must also match that same tenacity of self-learning and must write secure programs. So now, as a developer, it won't cost a thing for you to pick one or two courses in cybersecurity, even if it is the basics. Now, there are so many major cybersecurity preaches out there and everything. And it's surprising that even in the 21st century, people still do SQL injection, they still do XSS, they still do DDoS, etc. They still do it on some platforms and everything. But as a developer, there's actually, if you think like a hacker, if you know all these basic things, you can actually protect yourself from it. Now, and again, so sometimes programmers tend to rely on their other team member. This makes them less likely to experiment and evolve. Now, I'm not saying teamwork is bad. No, teamwork is very, very good. But at the same time, if you are working as a team, at the same time, you must try as much as possible to stand alone. Try as much as possible to think, not even think outside the box. Think like there's no box at all. Think like a hacker. That's one good thing. So another thing, learning by experience. Now, I found something online according to Edgar Dale's cone of experience. It says people keep 5% of their knowledge that they get from formal lectures. They keep 10% from reading and almost 75% from doing things that they seek to learn, that is gaining experience. Now, as a developer, what will help you is by learning by experience. Now, People, like if you go for lectures and everything, you go for lectures, everything you learn there, fine. Let's assume that when you are in the lecture room, you are assimilating everything that you are being taught. Even if you are being taught about cybersecurity, like the way I'm doing currently, let's assume you are assimilating everything I'm saying. And at the end of the lecture, you are like, oh, yes, I'm 100% certain that, yes, I'm good. I'm okay with all this and everything. But what happens when you step out of the class? What happens when you are not practicing what you're doing? What happens when you are not when you are not experimenting what you learned? It starts decreasing. Let's assume that by the time we finish the session now, you are at a 70% in terms of knowledge. But if you are not practicing those things, you start dropping till you keep just 5% of that knowledge. Now let's talk about the ones that you read yourself. If you are reading it yourself, at the end of the day, you are full of knowledge. But if you don't practice what you're doing, or you don't keep doing it and everything, you are just going to be left with just like, let's say, 10%. Now, you gain almost 75% from doing those things. Now, what do I mean by from doing those things? As a software developer, it's not a must for you to be a cybersecurity expert, as you know. But if you know some basic things about cybersecurity, that is how hackers think. If you know all those things, oh, fine. For a form field, these are the things that they can do to a form field. For an upload button, this is what they can do to an upload button. Or I need to do client validation for this. I also need to do server-side validation to this. Things like that. If you start thinking in that direction, oh, you're already covering most of the loopholes that a hacker can actually think of. Now, cyber attackers, they do what? They always learn from experience, and that is how they are self-driven. So developers must be ready to experiment and learn from new attempts rather than applying the knowledge obtained formally. So just try as much as possible to experiment everything that you have been taught. If you go online, you see some forums, you see some some learning platforms and everything, and you can even join private forums and everything. Just like I said, I do some private forums too. We talk, we rub minds together. Nobody's an island of knowledge, but at the same time, rubbing minds together, practicing it, it's one thing to make you, it's one of the things that would actually help you to retain most of the things you're learning. Now, a hacker is willing to break boundaries. All right. A hacker is willing to break boundaries. Now, the phrase breaking boundaries, it doesn't really mean ethical boundaries. It means that programmers can actually outperform if conventions do not bind their performance. Now, hackers are always looking for new vulnerabilities. So wow, if hackers are always looking for new vulnerabilities, as a developer, what is stopping you from also looking for those vulnerabilities as well? Now, one thing I do is this. Anytime I build a particular software and I push it to production or probably is in use again, most times I dedicate a good time of my week to the fact that let me research about this particular software. Let me try as much as possible to try this if this will work. Let me look at vulnerabilities out there. Oh, I read somewhere there's a new vulnerability out there. This is how to do that. This is how to do it. This is how to exploit it and everything. Oh wow, that's how to exploit it. I go back to my code. I check if I've actually spotted that in the past. If, for example, if I didn't spot such vulnerabilities in the past, I try as much as possible to do things in such a way that even if a hacker is trying to bypass, a hacker is trying to exploit such a vulnerability on my software, he or she won't be able to go ahead with that. So programmers should always learn to explore new ways to resort to felonious options. Now, the part I love most, that is have fun. Now, listen to this. Any job, when considered a task, may not receive the best of efforts. Now, a programmer writing to complete a task before a deadline may not be innovative. Let me repeat that. A programmer writing to complete a task before a deadline may not be innovative. Now, the pressure of working for the milestone can make one productive. Now, there's a difference between being productive and being innovative. So, the pressure of working for the milestone can make one productive, but it can make you less efficient. Now, as a programmer, I would suggest you enjoy doing things to give you the best of your programming skills. Now, if you see a cyber attacker doesn't set a deadline for his or herself. A hacker doesn't set the deadline for his or herself. What they want to do is that they want to achieve this. Fine. Notwithstanding, I'm not saying that setting milestone is not a good thing. Oh, it is a very, very good thing. But as much as possible, if you set milestone, try as much as possible to give room for you to be more efficient. Let me put it that way. Try as much as possible to enjoy what you're doing. Don't think because fine, if it's a product that it takes, normally it's meant to take 6 months. But because of the fact that you want to impress your boss, you want to impress your client or so, you tell them you are going to develop it, you are going to deliver it in 2 months. So now tell me, how are you going to test? How are you going to have fun doing what you're doing? No. If it's going to take 6 months, let them know it's going to take 6 months. And you justify the 6 months. Now, when you have enough time to build whatever product you're building, it gives you time. It gives you time to enjoy what you're doing. So let me quickly write them. So now how can developers build software that is hack-proof? Now, building hack-proof software is not entirely possible. But there are some ways by which you can do it as a developer, that is to make it significantly harder for attackers. Now, first step is to minimize the number of bugs in your code. Well, that's easier said than done though, because I'm seeing people guilty of that. All right. So now for you to build hack-proof software, you have to pay attention to security. That is, educate yourself in security as a software developer. Educate yourself in security. Now, code testing. Test your software. There are some sensitive code section in your app that you need to test very well. So test your software. Now, analysis. Use automated analysis. If you don't, in case you don't know about LinkedIn, just go and browse LinkedIn on Google. Just do a Google search on LinkedIn. So you can use analysis, use automated analysis to analyze your code and everything. So you use vulnerability scanners as well. We have vulnerability scanners like Mayhem. You can browse that as well. So now try as much as possible to enable operating system defenses in your deployment environment. Then in case, even if they bypass your particular app, your server will not be compromised. Then compiler, try as much as possible to enable compiler defenses. Now, you should assume that an attacker will get code execution and try to minimize the impact. At every point in time, always assume that fine, an attacker can actually attack me. Because to me, I don't feel anything is 100% secure. So don't forget the question I asked in the first place. Is there anything that is 100% secure? So now at a high level, you want to give your software, it's a good thing for you to give your software the least amount of permissions and capabilities. That even if it is compromised, the attacker cannot really have full access to everything that it can do, everything that the software can do. And finally, if you can afford it, I would recommend a security code audit or pen testing. Try as much as possible to get a pen tester to actually try to pen test your app, to pen test your software, to see how strong it is. Thank you. So if you have questions, you can actually drop it now. And before the time expires, let me just quickly talk about that protected test. Now, the link that I dropped, that is protectedtest.com, it's more or less like a link whereby if you had / and you put any name there, if you want to save a particular text online for future reference, put a / in the address bar, put a / and you put your any name there. So it will ask you to drop your text. Once you drop the text there, it will request for a password. So anytime you want to access that particular page, it always asks for that particular password from you. So now, I found out something that when you want to go back to the platform to access your test, if you put in your password, that password doesn't get sent to the server because they said it on their platform that they don't save your password, which is very, very true. I tried it and I saw that yes. I tried to do some little bypassing there, and I saw that yes, it is actually true. The password don't get sent to the server. Those guys are using some level of hashing with AES encryption and everything. So it is super, super cool. I hope we had more time that I can explain some things about this protected test. Because when I analyzed everything, I analyzed their JavaScript and everything, it actually gave me more insight as a developer. And oh wow, so people can actually think to this level. So I think with that, I'm done. Thank you, Olowoniwa Gabriel Ayokunle once again.
And thank you, Olowoniwa, for your presentation. We appreciate you, and we are happy to have you here. And I'm going to give you a link now, and let's all meet in Chat with a Speaker room.
All right, thank you.